being homeless, being without a place to live, being unhoused is a state of crisis.
You see them every day, the unsheltered homeless in Cleveland.
I never really thought that I'd be homeless.
Doctors told me if I hadn't gotten her in when I did, if she had fallen asleep that night, she would have woken up.
But do you really know their stories?
That man could be a chef, or that woman could have been a chef. And you not knowing because you're judging their outside.
TV 20 brings you Sheltering Hope, the real stories of formerly unhoused individuals with a fresh start.
We want to get to everyone. That's our goal, is that we want a home for every person that is experiencing unsheltered homelessness, and that's what we're going to try to do.
No matter the season, no matter the weather, the streets are home for countless people. They live, eat, take care of their most personal needs, and sleep on our city's streets. Who are they? How did they end up here? How do they survive? And what is being done to bring about change and get them housed? Hello, I'm Eleanor Hayes. These are the stories of our unsheltered homeless and the city of Cleveland's hope to change their lives, one home at a time.
You have a cozy home. It felt really good to walk in here today. I came from Ashtabula, and that's my hometown. You know, a little bit of raised there, but born there. It got rough because I lost my apartment due to water, and I had to move out.
Keisha was working in retail, but couldn't afford a new place.
Then it got even more rougher when my son fell off a roof last year, 11 feet. And that what brought me to Cleveland.
Her 20-year-old son suffered a severe brain injury. Her days were spent at his bedside, looking for work and still having no place to call home.
I stayed in my car for a few months behind a convenience store that I asked the owner that I could possibly, sleep there when he worked, to be on camera somewhere safe. A little inspirational story is you, man, and that handsome smile to go with it.
The phone is their connection while he rehabilitates. Keisha tried a shelter, but says shelter rules and emergency runs to the hospital clashed.
I'm done. They kicked me out because of the situation with my kid, because it wasn't under, their rules and their schedule. So I packed my things, I left.
And where did you go?
I went to the West Catholic Center.
She was still living in her car, but she could depend on meals at the center and mobile vans supplying food.
I was definitely fed at the West Catholic Center, if nothing else, and I got my shower.
Homelessness has more than one face, and homeless people find more than one way to survive.
Bathrooms that will allow me to get in there. When I would go in there and visit with my son, wash my face a little bit, go to the car, grab my makeup, put that on, fill out some applications, and I didn't look homeless. I was raised not to look like you live until you figure that out. So I've always been taught to dress nice.
Complex circumstances or simple ones can lead to homelessness.
Sometimes it can be the economy, the job, the environment that person lives in. The rent might have went up. The person's job might have, they might have just cut their hours. They might have just got fired. Life happens.
The one thing she always wanted because she loved horses more than anything, was to have a ranch. She could never get it. So 1 year before she passed, I built that and decided to give her the horse ranch she couldn't have
in life.
Terry and Jason Williams have been married nearly 15 years. They co-owned a home with Jason's mother. After her death, life took one bad turn after another.
By the time I got home, his mom had passed away in his arms. It was a really rough time.
Inheritance, family matters, and finances got complicated. They lost their home.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because you don't want to go to a very well-known shelter, women's shelter, which is, I've been there one other time prior to being homeless. They were ridiculous.
Yeah, the shelters are not safe.
Not at all. So we chose to live on the streets, finding stuff that you need, that you had to carry with you all the time, worried that you're not going to get robbed of what little bit of things is. It is a whole another ball game when you're living on the streets because of something that you need to keep on you. Is other people are jealous of what you have. Oh, they can use that, so they try to steal it off you, or they try to fight you for it. They try to kill you for that little item that they may want or have. From like a couple of times we had our tent broken into, living in a tent. At night it was fine because you get used to the night sounds, but sometimes you can sleep at ease, sometimes you're up all night.
It was another crisis that led to a sign of hope. When Terry was hospitalized after a medical emergency, the doctors would not release her until she had a place to call home.
The hospital's getting mad because they're still keeping us here because we don't have a house, because I actually have a breathing machine that I have to be on at night.
And before long, the Williamses were handed keys to their own place. The homes Jason, Terry, and Keisha welcomed us into are provided by the City of Cleveland's A Home for Every Neighbor program. Started in spring 2024, by the end of the year, over 100 people who had been living on the streets, in encampments, or their cars, were unlocking doors, not just to new apartments, but to new beginnings. Emily Collins is Senior Advisor to the Mayor of Cleveland for major projects.
A Home for Every Neighbor is an initiative that the city has invested in, both with funds, personnel, and coordination. And that's really what it is. It's what we call a housing command style of coordination, where there is an entity, kind of like FEMA, that upon a natural disaster has a crisis response to the needs that are happening.
The program specifically addresses unsheltered homelessness.
Unsheltered homelessness means that you're living in a place that's not suitable for human habitation. You can imagine that that's not just tents, it's living in your car. Which we've all taken, maybe a snooze in our car, but living in your car is very, very difficult. And it's not suitable for human habitation. Living in an abandoned building, all of those things could be unsheltered homelessness. But we do have a robust set of shelters here in Cleveland.
A Home for Every Neighbor works to get people directly from the streets into housing, skipping shelters.
You oftentimes cannot enter shelter with your partner. Sometimes it's pets. So there are all kinds of reasons that people may choose to be on the streets, but usually they feel safer on the street than they do in a sheltered living environment for whatever reason. So we are approaching unsheltered homelessness in a way that offers a quick resolution. It's a housing resolution.
Eviction led to Joe's homelessness.
Yeah, I was over here I had our spot, and then I got evicted out of there. And we kind of knew it was coming because a lot of people got evicted. We moved up to the woods, got a little camp area. We stayed there for a while, about a year or so, and kind of tried to make it work. Yeah, there's probably 25 of us maybe at one time. Just every day, going out, and I'd stand by the highway with a sign, a lot. I tried not to go and steal from stores unless I had to, if I was really hungry. But most of the time I'd stand by the sign, with the sign, and it worked out, $15, $20, $30, worked. And that's about it. I'd, go back, get something cold, because you die of thirst out there, you know what I mean? Seems like you're always thirsty. And then that was it. Come back and try to keep the tent from blowing away.
Joe lost his arm to an infection, but still works in construction. A Home for Every Neighbor has caseworkers to help navigate job searches, transportation, securing identifications, benefits, and overall, adjusting to life inside a house again. Mario Thompson is one of the case managers.
So that's somewhere that it might be a subsidy. We might be able to work with them, get them employment, so they can end up paying the rent after the 12 months of subsidy is over with. So then they're able to just live on their own, and or they could go to a project or some kind of supportive housing.
Liam Haggerty is the housing and project manager for A Home for Every Neighbor. He's the first face many see and the first voice they hear bringing news of real change.
And I think one of the things that I always try to remind myself and remind the whole team is that it's a huge step for someone to say yes to this program. I mean, I think you can look at it from the perspective of look at all the stuff that they are getting. But the reality is they are making a huge step to say, I would like to say yes to this. I want to get into housing. I want to take this step and take this risk. Because moving, no matter what, if you're moving from one house to another, it's still a change in your life. And for someone who has always been overlooked, always been in crisis, because homelessness is a crisis, to say, I'm going to take this step and give this a shot. But what we do is we basically go to a site where folks are living unsheltered and spend some time establishing who is living there, who are the regular stayers, build a list of everyone that's there, and then we commit to everyone that's at that site and say, we're going to find you housing. They may feel like whatever is being offered is something that doesn't work for them, or they've tried before and it has fallen through. So part of what we do when we show up is seek to build trust, establish relationship. But so once we determine who is at the site, we begin to work with them on housing. Occasionally there are folks who are living on the street and they have children, but their children aren't living with them on the street. They're with another family member. And if they were able to get stable housing, they could be reunited with their children. So then part of that unit need for them is they're looking for a 2-bedroom because their teenage daughter or son or a couple of kids could come live with them once they get inside again. So then our unit team goes out and works with landlords around the city to find units that we can then rent for folks in the program.
A Home for Every Neighbor is a collaboration. The City of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County with multiple community partners, such as Westside Catholic Center. After approvals, A Home for Every Neighbor places individuals in furnished rental properties, pays their rent for 12 months, and serves as a resource to services to help maintain a permanent home and improve quality of life. The change begins with the housing.
Everybody has different types of challenges and a different pathway to ultimately permanent housing, but our hope is that through that 12 months of housing, the idea that everyone really does deserve a place to live, that housing is a right, that you really can't really start to address other challenges and issues in your life if you're struggling to figure out where you're going to sleep that night, if you're wondering if you're safe where you fell asleep that night. And so giving someone a chance to sleep in a bed, close a door, lock that door, and not have to worry about those things that so many of us just take for granted as a given.
In the first 2 months, the program served 71 people. 66% were men, 31% women, and 3% transgender. 70% said they'd been homeless for over a year, and 21% said it was over 2 years since they had a place to call home. Some of the neighbors have experienced some type of mental health disorder and chronic health disorders, or have a history of drug abuse.
Well, I've never really not worked. I've never really not had a place to go, a place to call home. I mean, I have a history of abuse, so I mean, I've been drug abuse, so it's kind of hard because I burned so many bridges in the past. So I ended up just not even bothering trying to get help because all the no's is what hurts more than anything, given the fact that I've given so much in the past and the people that you expect to be there weren't.
Luke's fate worsened when he lost his job in industrial maintenance.
Realistically, it was just a bunch of bad choices, legal issues on top of that, plus I fell out with what few friends I did have, or at least friends I shouldn't have anyway, or should have. So I ended up in the streets, and then somebody led me to a camp where, you know, I ended up building a little type of house or anything because I'm good with my hands.
We heard about a sense of camaraderie, family, amongst many of the unsheltered homeless.
It's hard to explain because we're like a weird little family. Some of us, at least in my camp, was, because there's multiple. You know, everybody was pretty close for the most part. I mean, there was people that you just didn't want to deal with, or you'd fight with them. I got into a few fights with one of the guys there, and you know, we're still friends. We're just like a brotherly fight type thing, you know, like I had with my brother.
Even after being placed in housing, some keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. They're friends. We've had people with this program that I've taken to their home first day, and the first thing they did was said, I'm going to see my friends and eat some dinner with them. So they went back to the center to go eat, and then went back to their new home.
Is really something to be congratulated. So it's also really exciting to see folks take that step. And so I think when folks move in, one of the things I always say is, congratulations, I'm really proud of you that this is something you are taking a step for, because it's the first day of the rest of your life.
So you'll see them start making phone calls right away. They'll make appointments for mental health. They'll call their family to let them know that they're there, like that they have somewhere, and start regaining all those relationships they lost from being homeless. A lot of them are embarrassed. But when they get there, the change in attitude, the change in their whole personality is just different. They're happy. They've changed physically. We've both seen that. Yeah.
Remarkably,
Yeah.
What's your view? There's a lot. You don't have a foundation somewhere to go to. Somewhere to call home, you know, but somewhere to start new. I mean, it really gives you a new way of thinking. You know what I mean? It takes a minute to set in, you know. It doesn't happen right away.
They don't know they may be to where, yeah, they may know where they're going. That second, it can happen to anybody. We live in the economy that we do now. You can go from living on easy street to, what the hell am I gonna do next?
Don't take for granted everything you have just because you have it. As they say, tomorrow is not guaranteed. You could lose everything you have, even your life, in the next 5 minutes. Don't look down on those who have less than you. Just because you have pride and dignity doesn't mean they shouldn't have it either.
It means the world to me. I mean, they provided it for a year, and honestly, a year doesn't seems like a long time to most people, but it's not. You know, I'm trying to rebuild what I had, and even though, yeah, I'm grateful for the place and I love it here, I don't want to have to move, but a year's not a long time, you know, to think about renewing my license and, you know, getting back on track.
I think that for folks who are unhoused, they are often invisible in plain sight. I think, you know, I saw an interview once where they were asking folks who were unhoused to describe the experience of homelessness with one word. And the one word that struck me the most was a gentleman who said, it's lonely. That being homeless is lonely because you spend your day around folks who don't address you by name, kind of see you as just part of the environment, don't stop to talk with you and ask you your story. So certainly there is a lot of that, and especially when you get into unsheltered homelessness, there's folks, under a bridge that you might drive by every day and not know that there's folks living under there just trying to survive, or an abandoned building, or a tent in the woods.
And it's all about how you look at it, life. Nobody knew that was gonna happen, and nobody knew I was gonna be homeless for a year. But here we are. By the grace of God, we are all here, still thriving and striving, and we got every day to change and make something better, even if it's how we think.
For Keisha, Joe, Luke, and Terry and Jason, this is just the first step on their journey. As they celebrate a new year and a new place to call home, they all share a sense of hope for their future. A home for every neighbor served over 115 individuals and households by the end of 2024. Thank you for joining us. I'm Eleanor Hayes.